Good evening, this is City Council City Work Meeting, City of Pleasantville. Today's date is November 21st, 2022, time 6:30 p.m. This meeting has been duly advertised in the city's newspaper, performance report, meeting act, otherwise known as Sunshine Law. Roll call.
Swan. Davenport.
Present.
Fablelaro.
Here.
Thomas.
Present.
Pomona.
Present.
Korea.
Here.
Sistrum.
Present.
Six in attendance.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And now we have 2021 annual audit.
Yes, our CFO, Mr. Barry Ludy, will introduce our auditor. Thank you.
Here, gentlemen, this is Mike Stereo from Bowman and Associates. They keep changing their name, keep ahead of everybody. They just did the audit for 2021. It's been reviewed by Ms. Payton and myself. He will go over some of the highlights and to you for the council people, and I believe the resolution has to be approved, saying that you have reviewed it and accepted it.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone. Once again, Michael Sessler, CESARO for the record. Just wanted to thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening to discuss the 2021 audit. We had the privilege of working with the city for the second year. Definitely a privilege to have that opportunity, so we thank you for that. You have a great team that works here. I know some of the concerns that we have going forward through 2022 into the 2023 budget are some of the concerns that we have to look at and address. But this picture of time that we're looking at is the 2021 audit, December 31st, 2021. And you were provided two documents, the actual audit report itself and an exit conference report. In that exit conference report, there's a number of graphs that present some of the financial information for the city. And we can definitely provide some of those highlights. I don't know if you have that in front of you. If not, I just wanted to address, in many cases, the city faces difficulty in bringing in revenue. And that's one of the struggles that we have. The state of New Jersey requires us to have a balanced budget. And by having a balanced budget, that means our revenues and our appropriations have to equal each other. Unlike the federal government that has the opportunity to spend without having appropriate revenues, that is not something that the city or any city in the state of New Jersey can do. So in our system, we have to rely on property taxes to handle the majority of the revenue to run the operations of the city. And no one likes to pass on those costs to our taxpayers, but we recognize that when we look at the revenue side of our system, roughly 76% of the revenue that's generated from our budget is from local taxes. Nobody wants to raise taxes, but we understand that to have the safety, the educational, the recreational needs that we have in our community, you have to be able to provide funds. So when you look at the revenue breakdown, 76 of it being from taxes, you may ask, what's the other portion? And the main portion that we have is our state aid. And during the 2022 budget process, you may recall that there was a slight increase in state aid. There has been no directive yet from our friends in Trenton as to whether or not there's going to be additional aid for 2023. And we've had the opportunity to rely on the American Rescue Plan to help us in our budget process. But that's unfortunately going away. So when we look at our revenues, when we have 76% being the local tax and roughly 7% being the next largest, which is state aid, there are a couple of other items that fall in there. There may be some grants, uniform construction code fees. Those don't make up the bulk. And that other last major portion is surplus. And the surplus really had been generated because we had an emergency in our prior years. So even our surplus had been trending down, and you can see that in one of our note disclosures that we have in the audit report itself. So when we look to 2023, there's going to be a lot of work that the administrator and the CFO and with our assistants are going to be working together to try and put together a picture for you probably a lot sooner than you would normally see because of some of the conversations that we've had here about the potential to apply to the state of New Jersey for some additional aid. And then we'll go through that process, and that process will begin pretty much the end of December here. Barry and his finance team will finish up. They'll have the records put together. We'll come in, we'll create what we call an unaudited financial statement, and then we'll sit down with the team here and make some determinations as to whether or not the process to go forward with applications to the state for that aid. We'll take care of that going forward. There is one finding that we do have in the report itself. It is a repeat finding, and it existed prior to our appointment as the auditor, and it really refers to the general ledger being maintained in a complete nature. The general ledger itself is the main document that has and holds the city's financial position. So if we said to Barry and his finance team, what's the financial position on April 23rd, he would look at his general ledger and it may not be complete. There are certain things that haven't been adjusted, and I think minor in nature. There has been improvement the last 2 years, I can stress that. And once we sit down with Barry, we'll have a couple of more adjustments made to it, and we think going forward, we're, fingers crossed, we think that finding will go away for 2022's audit. So that's the positive nature of that. But it is a repeat finding, and it is something that does get disclosed in our synopsis. I know Madam Clerk has received the information to send to the press. The press will get the summary of our balance sheet, statement of operations, and then there's a little blurb that indicates that there is a finding. And Barry will be putting together a corrective action plan for submission. I don't think that's on the next agenda, right, Barry? Okay. So that might be on your next meeting. There'll be a corrective action relative to that. Also included in our exit conference report were a few minor items that we had for discussion. And as we've advised previously, that they're pretty much consultative in nature, but I think there was one that I was asked to kind of address, and that's relative to retiree payouts. So the IRS has certain rules that they like to emphasize, and one of our roles is to try to make sure that we pass on information when we go and provide some of our consulting services to the city. We did note that there was a payment structure that isn't officially set up. So if we were to set up and mandate payments to be paid over time, regardless of the dollar amount, so even if you had $500, or if it was all the way up to $100,000, if we pay it out over time, then we can withhold taxes over time. Unfortunately, if the employee has the option to take a lump sum, and they choose $500, they take it, we tax them, that's fine. But if employee B over here had the $100,000 and chose, well, I'm going to take it over time, the taxes have to be taken out all at once. And that's the way the IRS has tried to stress it. They've had for many years, they send out these notices, they've tried to educate local officials on it, because look, you and I, hey, I didn't get that money, why should I be taxed? Unfortunately, the IRS doesn't view it that way because the money is available to you. Very similar if you won the lottery, but we won't get into that because this is not the lottery situation. But in our case here, we would just ask, and I think Barry had informed me, and I think even in consultation with Ms. Payton, that you're consulting with your attorneys to make sure that perhaps we set up the proper policy to make sure that we're covered from that perspective. But once again, overall, positive moving forward for 2021, the results of the audit. So I would definitely, if you have any questions relative to anything that you've received, I'll be glad to answer them. But the key for us moving into 2023 is to try and turn around as quickly as possible the results of operation for 2022, and then sit down and meet with all of you and decide what is the best course of action for the city to take. Questions?
Yeah, I did have a question.
Yes.
You said that we had a repeat finding, am I correct?
Yes, correct.
And you said you're working on a action plan for it now? I mean, if it was repeat finding, did we put that in place before, or we, behind the eight ball on this?
Yes, so generally what happens is there is a corrective action that is required for any finding, and sometimes the timing of, for instance, when we come in and do an audit, when our predecessors did their audit, there isn't necessarily enough time to get corrective action taken care of. But in our case here, for moving forward to 2022's audit, if we can get in here and have that conversation with Barry, which we intend to do, we would expect that by December 31st of 2022, corrective action will have been taken and this finding should go away. That's the goal. But yes, it has been repetitive in nature, but I did stress that each year there has been improvement.
Okay, so this has been more than 1 year, it's been...
Oh, yes, yeah, it predated even our service to the city.
What's the total debt for the city? What's the total debt?
Total debt for the city. You know, the only thing I can tell you on that, Council President, further. For those of you that may have your audit report in front of you, and I apologize, Council President, I can give you a picture of time as of December 31st, 2021, and I don't necessarily have the updated 2022 payments that have already been made. But if you're looking at your audit report, it's on page 64 of the note, which is note 12, is your capital debt. So it actually starts at the bottom of page 63 of the audit, and is continued on page 64. Okay. On the bottom of page 63, it describes each of the bond issues that you have outstanding. And it shows on page 64, at the top of page 64, that the principal amount that was due as of December 31st, 2021 is $8.3 million. And it also reflects what those payments are each year. So in 2022, the city budgeted and paid down $1.39 million in principal, and budgeted and paid down $227,357 in interest. And since we're here probably in November, it's probably, both interest payments have probably been paid at this point in time. Most debt is usually paid off by the November meeting. There usually isn't December debt.
So that would make that, go ahead.
Okay, so then the next section is long-term loans that the city has entered into. So the top section were bonds. The next section there is $603,000. That is for long-term loans. They were Green Acres loans that the city has entered into over a period of time. And once again, right before the chart of the numbers, you can see the description of each one of those loans that occurred. And then as we shift over to page 65, you still have the sewer utility. And once again, you have paragraphs that describe each of the issues. And the total sewer debt on page 65, you can see in the chart, is $2.8 million for principal. So once again, in 2022, you can see that a principal payment has been made for $283,622, as has the $84,000 in interest that has been paid. Okay. And if you just happen to, don't want to confuse anybody, but if you flip over to page 66, that actually kind of recaps. Barry files what we call an annual debt statement. It is due to the state of New Jersey January 31st of each year. So January 31st of 2023, Barry's going to file the annual debt statement with the state, and it's going to reflect where you stand at December 31st, 2022. So the numbers will shift based on that information. Okay? I will say that buried in this section on page 66, it indicates that our net debt is 1.156%. The state of New Jersey allows municipalities to borrow up to 3.5% of their value. So if we move over to page 67, the top of page 67, you can see that 3.5% of the town's valuation is the $27.9 million. Our net debt is $9.2 million, and we have the ability to borrow as of December 31st, 2021.
That 9.2 is without the sewer.
That is correct, because the sewer is considered to be able to pay for itself, and that term is called self-liquidating. It's able to pay the rents that are generated, pay for its debt, so it doesn't count toward the net debt. So 18.7 million is still able to be borrowed by the city. The 1.156% is actually very good.
Go over again, what is the reason why it's pulled out, or why the sewer is not in?
In the city of Pleasantville, we have the way it is structured, and it's actually the next section right underneath where it says remaining borrowing power of 18.7 million. It shows the calculation, which is called, quote unquote, self-liquidating. And that means that the revenues that are generated within the utility, and you can see the revenues, the cash receipts from fees, rents, fund balance anticipated, interest and other investment income and other charges for the year were $5.3 million. So that's the revenue that was generated by the sewer utility in 2021. And then that gets compared to what was the operating and maintenance cost, the debt service cost, which were roughly $4,055,000. So because there is an excess in revenue, and that excess in revenue for 2021 was $1.2 million, if the excess in revenue was $1, you would be considered self-liquidating. However, if that was a negative, then there's another calculation that would be involved that would then be added and count against our 3.5%. But you were definitely in excess, and therefore the 1.28 million is a very good number.
Chair. Yeah, I just want to go back, if I can, to Councilman Davenport's question, just to make sure that we have clarity in case this question comes up when the auditor is not here, and I want you guys to receive an answer from the auditor. The finding that has been repetitive, that predates you, predates Barry, this is an old finding that we've been gradually trying to clean up each year. So I just want to make sure that council, because we have new folks here, that they understand that this is not something that was just recently created.
And to Ms. Payton's point, when a finding goes in the report, you literally have to have near perfection to have it pulled out. And so there are certain things that aren't being recorded, minor in nature, but because they're not being recorded, I can't in good conscience say it's cleaned up and it's clear. So once we hit that threshold, it's very important that it continue to be that good. And I'm sure it will be, because I know some of the things are just a matter of making sure that we follow through on taking some of these non-cash entries that may occur in other offices and making sure that they're posted. So I have all the confidence in the world that the city's finance office will take care of that.
Question, Chair. If it's a long-standing issue, how come a corrective action plan was never created?
It's not true, it has been created, it's just that it's been taking us some time to get it corrected. So each year, as the auditor stated, anytime that there is a finding, you have to do a corrective action plan.
Okay, I'm sorry, I heard something else.
Unfortunately, though, human nature occurs. We all make mistakes. And the issue then becomes as well, that mistake, the wrong time, I can't say that everything has been corrected. But I will say I think the wording in and of itself has been improving each year. So that's positive news. So, and trust me, I do have other clients that will never have that finding be cleaned up.
Council.
I have a question on page 30. It said the city is responsible for levying, collecting, and remitting school taxes.
Yes.
Explain the word levying, what it means
Sure.
in your sense.
So each of our entities, the county, the school, and the city, create their budgets. And by creating their budgets, they establish a tax levy. That tax levy is then certified by the state of New Jersey through the County Board of Taxation, and those numbers are then sent to the city, and then the city's tax office is then responsible for making sure that tax bills are properly printed and identified. And on those tax bills, it is broken out to show the school portion, the city portion, and the county portion. So therefore, it is deemed that we are responsible to sending out that one tax bill. We collect it all. We bill it for them, we collect it for them, and if I'm not mistaken, as Barry had indicated, there was a corrected bill list tonight to ensure that we're making our payment over to the school.
But the word levy, to me, denotes the fact that we're given the opportunity to set the amount. Am I right or wrong in that? Let me ask it another way.
Sure.
Who sets the amount for the percentage of taxes to go to the school district in general, in any township?
The school budget is set by the school. You have no control over that school tax levy.
Okay, thank you. That's,
How can I phrase that? I don't know how many type 2 and type 1 school districts there are in the state of New Jersey, but for the most part, probably 80%, and that number could be wrong, the school board sets that number. And then there are the entities that have the school board estimate that take care of it and create that situation as well. So 2 different forms, but in most cases, not necessarily in control by anyone here.
thank you. That's, okay.
And that's why when we have our budget public hearing, sometimes there are people that come up and they want to talk about the county tax, or they want to talk about the school tax, and then we have to emphasize that generally speaking, we're here and we can only represent what the city portion is, because that's what we have control over.
I think this council, we need to set up a workshop issue. So, I mean, easy math. What's more, 2 or 75?
What's that?
What's more, 2 or 75?
Well, it depends, I guess.
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
But I think this council, in light of a lot of things that's going on this past year, we need to have the opportunity to sit down and go through and have some time with it.
Glad to.
Yeah.
One of the things that our firm does put on, we put on an annual seminar for folks. Most likely, we kind of emphasize it. We don't want to insult anyone who's been on council for many years, but if they're new to council and they're part of the finance team or any section, actually, it's a training program on understanding budgets. And I happen to have been probably the speaker of that for the last 10, 12 years. And we do that as a roadshow too. So if you want us to come down and take a Saturday morning and sit down and go through that process, we'd be glad to do that and walk you through what the process is. And Michael, I think I tried to start off with the fact that in New Jersey, here we are with a balanced budget, we have to have revenues equal appropriations, and it's really what I call, and what I've always tried to stress, it's building that foundation, because whether you serve for 1 month or 5,000 years, it's always a learning process, and there's always something new going on with the state of New Jersey's budget process. So we'll be glad to stop down and take care of that. Not to ruin anyone's Saturday morning, but figure that's an option. Or anytime, I mean, whatever's convenient.
Council. Any more questions?
Mike,
Yes.
it's good to hear you say it's not good that we have findings, but we've had findings for years and years and years. And it's good to hear you say that, even if it's a slight finding, that it's not going to be perfect. It would have to be perfect for us to not have anything. We're working on what we do have, but it's just good to hear you say that, because we've been working on it all along and we're never there. Every year I'm saying the same thing. It's the same finding over and over again. Not discerning the differences, just what would make it okay. But now I see it has to be 0.
It's not one of those findings where, let's say we had a bid violation and we didn't go out. Well, we can correct that. A little easier than a situation that's pretty much an ongoing and every day reconciliation process, making sure that everything is there. But to the mayor's point, we definitely.
Even when I talk about that, what was that, the leave, the leave or when, as a person departures from the city of Pleasantville?
Yes.
And you ask them out, and you can see the difficulties, and you got an employee that has a couple of days, a week, or 3 or 4 weeks, and then you got someone that's built up to 2 years
Yes.
worth of leave,
Yeah.
you know. So,
Well, the interesting thing about that, and what I always kind of would say to my clients, it's far better for you to pay that out over time as a benefit to your taxpayers and probably to the individual who's leaving who has the large pot. Is it a problem for the person who's walking out of here with $500 or $1,000 that they have to wait? Well, it's such a small amount. Too bad, You obviously didn't stay around long enough to really be a part of the city, or unfortunately, maybe you had a situation where you couldn't accrue that kind of time. But I think it's probably far better to set that, my recommendation would be set at that 3-year, something along those lines, just so that it's set in stone and then there's no issues, because it's the ramifications of an issue paying out over time, the larger dollar amount, and the IRS coming back and forcing you to be responsible for the employer share and the employee share, because that could be potentially what happens. In that case, I don't mind if I upset the person who has $600 or $500 in their account that they have to wait 3 years to get. So that's the benefit there. It's more important for you as a city to protect yourselves.
any questions? Stand
So,
up.
Chair,
Yes.
so what we're doing tonight is just agreeing to this, or what are we doing with this tonight?
The resolution is stating that we have this presentation and presented you with the information.
Okay, and then if we have questions afterwards, we can present those questions.
Certainly.
Councilwoman, the one thing I will stress is that on page 143 of the audit, 143, the resolution that you're going to approve this evening certifies that you have reviewed this at a minimum. And that's the finding that's in the report. So the report itself has been reviewed both by Ms. Payton and Mr. Ludi. So the report has been issued and filed with the state of New Jersey. We uploaded that in the FAST system, as Barry knows. And then what will happen is the resolution that will occur at your meeting immediately following this is acknowledging that you have gone through and reviewed this finding. And the finding is what we talked about, that there were adjusting entries that need to be provided and input.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
So you're saying it's already been filed already? It's
Yeah.
been filed with the state already?
It has been uploaded into what they call the FAST system. It is not yet a public document at this point in time. That is pending your approval of it. Does that make sense? Yeah. So nothing has been published in the newspaper, because Madam Clerk cannot send anything to the newspaper until you all have said, okay.
I think it'd be a great education for this Saturday for all of us,
Sure.
for this council.
Yeah.
Okay.
You said for this Saturday.
No, I said for this council, for this council.
What,
I said this Saturday.
Chair, I want to make sure I understand, maybe council does, but I need clarity. Your Saturday or additional meeting for this is for the process or for this document itself?
I would say for the process.
Okay, I want to make sure.
45 days
Okay,
to
because we have to submit this. And it doesn't change, this information does not change,
Right.
it is what it is.
But I think you were referring also to the budget, the whole budget
I
process.
understood. Just want to make sure everyone is on the same page, because I didn't get that initially.
And generally, what we do is we cover the annual financial statement, which is the unaudited portion. Reflects a lot of the same information that you have here. This is considered the audit, but we talk about the unaudited annual financial statement. We talk about the annual debt statement, which we kind of went over in that one note that we were looking at as well. But the main focus is really the annual budget process.
And I recommend that we do that exercise at the beginning of next year. You have your newer council folks with you, so we can do it at one time, and you approve your professional to do it. So you you wouldn't have to turn around and do this again for a new
Yes,
council person.
absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
I think we were talking about, this is your second year, right?
Yes.
And we talked about that at the beginning of the other year, but we were in the middle of the pandemic.
Yes, we were.
About having those classes, yeah.
We actually didn't hold our class in January of 2022. We did do a 2021 version online, but we kind of felt that that didn't get across as well, so we wanted to try and wait till we get back in
And we talked
person.
about it on our Zoom call.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, that was a good meeting.
Yeah, that was good. Okay, anyone else? Thank you.
Mr. Lee indicated I was excused, so I just want to confirm if I was excused or if you needed me. I didn't want to
I'm
lose out.
sorry.
permission.
Thank you,
I
Mike.
have another.
Yes, you got another question?
Yeah.
You stayed- I think you're card there.
Yes.
I know we had talked about it in the past about, I guess you could say when an employee retires and who is covered under the insurance. And I know we said that we was going to talk about it, but we still haven't had that conversation. So I'm not even sure if this is a question for you.
Not just
But-
auditor, maybe your labor attorney. Your labor attorney. Am I
Okay,
correct?
so-
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so, I mean, those are the kind of questions that I have, but I don't know if it's gonna make a difference with this, report here.
It would.
My report, no.
Okay, okay,
I'd be happy to make sure that the Labor Council comes.
okay.
Same firm, different department. I'd be happy to make sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. But where we at?
Thank you.
Got it.
Thank you very much.
Next is agenda.
Okay, first on the agenda is Resolution 191, authorizing the issuance and sale of up to $227,204 of special emergency notes of the city, making certain covenants to maintain the exemption of the interest on said notes from federal income taxation, and authorizing further actions and making such determinations as may be necessary or appropriate to effectuate the issuance and sale of the notes.
Any questions?
Yes. Can I get an explanation of this, please?
Yeah, Barry would probably do better at explaining it, but this is really the renewal of our bond anticipation that was 3 years ago. And I can yield for Barry when he comes in to give you more details.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any more questions? Seeing none?
Resolution 192, approval to submit a fiscal year 23 local freight impact fund grant application and execute a grant contract with the New Jersey Department of Transportation for improvements along Mill Road and West Lees Avenue.
Any questions? Seeing none? Next, Ms. Bates.
No, I have no questions. It's just that, we've applied for this particular area in the city, numerous grant cycles for Mill Road and Lees Avenue with the damage and the deterioration of the roads because of the trucks that go to and from on that area. So we're hopeful that there'll be additional monies at the state level this year and will be looked at upon for this freight impact fund grant application.
And Barry, you gave an explanation of Barry's back.
All right, more details on 191, please.
Yeah, that, part of the thing that Mike was talking about was, we call five-year notes, 227, this was something that was done probably 3 or 4 years ago. We were paying down. This year, we have 227 left over. I believe originally it was like 475, and in 2 years, it'll be completely paid off. So next year, instead of 127, it'll be 113.50. We pay half it, we'll be paying a percentage of it every year. Next year, it'll be even down. It's like refinancing your mortgage, renegotiating a note.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
questions? Madam Clerk?
Resolution 193, certifying that all city council members have reviewed the 2021 annual audit for the city.
Any questions? Next.
Resolution 194, providing for budget transfers for 2022 appropriations in the current fund per NJSA 40A:4-58.
And next.
Next is review of the bill list.
Mobile OU1, I did a revised bill list, we'll go over that in a second. The one that bill have been paid between today's council meeting and this council meeting, at the very top, you'll see triple R lighting, that is money being paid out of the neighborhood improvement program for Christmas decorations that can be done down on Main Street. I think Mrs. Fulminero was involved with that. Target Solutions are software involved with the police and fire department. We're paying that up. The next one down, surety title. We own the building in the corner. And it cost of $10,000 plus closing costs, so it came in at 12. That building is now ours. We expect to have it down before Christmas. Contract system is a down payment. We talked before about having a new time clock system using biometrics, and that was a down payment. We will be getting trained sometime in December with installation pretty much about the same time to all of our buildings. And then the wire transfers is the fourth quarter taxes for the county at $1,200,000. One that we did pay a debt service payment of $427,000, and then 604 is the latest payroll for last Friday. We want to go into the bills to be paid. Like I said, I revised. It's been a revised list, but the original list did not include the county, the full tax payment. That's the only change I've made between what was sent out to you on Friday and what was sent out, given you today and whatever. You'll see there's a couple things on here that talk about we have to reimburse condominiums and apartments for trash and pickup. That is a state law. You'll see things here for 106 South Main. You'll see things for, there's a number of whatever we have in town. Everything from Skyline Drive to Noah's Landing to everything. And if you've been on here before, you know that this is a state requirement. We have to reimburse them. This was probably 15 to 20 years ago, there was a lawsuit brought by a municipality called Mount Laurel decision, where townhouses and condominiums were being taxed just like everybody else, but didn't have their trash picked up. So we reimburse them. We reimburse them only for the trash pickup. In the bills that we get, you'll see fuel surcharge, we don't pay for it. Bulk pickup, we don't pay that. Also, some of them have what's called a reserve for replacement fee every month, that if their dumpster goes bad, the trash haul company will replace it. We don't do that either. All we pay is just for the rental of the 6, 8, 4 cubic yard dumpsters, whatever it is. If you go down to page 2, halfway down to Cooper Levinson. We mentioned last time that we were a little lax in getting some of the bills from Cooper Levinson. The $4,000, that was money that was from Zell and Savage Escrows. The $20,000 is probably 6 weeks or more of bills for Cooper Levinson. Just a point, this time last year, our total legal bills were like $295,000. Counting what I have that has not been paid from Cooper and what we have paid is like $230,000 through the same time period. Just want to let you know what's going on.
Question, Chair. So I know last meeting, so Cooper Levinson, that was from January to what?
No, actually, that's probably, I still have January through August on my desk. I'm still reviewing them to make sure. It's like $60,000. I have not okayed that because I'm going through it, making sure that it's reasonable numbers.
So last meeting, we paid what month?
Probably September, October.
So that was 1 month?
No, it's probably about 6 weeks. The bills come in, I don't know how often they send them out here. We try and look at them like
You said
every
you sent them in
4 to 6
a
weeks
location.
to put them in. We don't pay every bill payment, we don't pay Cooper Levinson. They could be 4 weeks, could be 6 weeks in between.
So, but last meeting, what was told to us was that they didn't receive any bills, correct?
They didn't, go ahead.
May I explain? Okay, so what was happening was the bill, as it was coming from Cooper Levinson to the city, it was Attention Redevelopment Council, so it was moving into my solicitor mailbox. And so the bills were actually being mailed here, but placed in the solicitor mailbox, and at that point, I received a lot of bills. Well, I received a lot of correspondence. But when I looked at it, I said, oh, these are just Cooper Levinson's bills that were sent via mail. So it was a backlog of bills that were sent here, but will be
A backlog
redirected.
from when?
I believe,
I mean, we're in November, so almost for the year, they were being placed in the
Well,
solicitor's
that's what I'm
box.
saying, but Barry's saying he still has January to August on his desk.
I think he has various months, right? So as he's getting them in, and I guess we can itemize it some kind of way so that you understand what months we're paying for. But what we're saying is for the last 10 months or so, the bills weren't being paid because they were going into the solicitor's box rather than the finance box.
Right.
So he's paying them as he's reviewing them. And I don't believe he's paying them in chronological order.
No. Okay, and when I said what we paid forward legal is about 230, it includes the 60,000 that's sitting on my desk. It's not additional 60,000. We, like I said, when we finally got the bills from Cooper Levinson, there were like $60,000 worth of bills. And we got bills subsequent after that, which we paid last time, and more bills which we paid this time. When we look at all those numbers all together, through November, it'll be like $230,000.
Is this labor as well?
Pardon me?
Is this labor?
This is all our legal bills.
Yeah.
All legal bills.
Yeah.
Including Cooper Levinson, our labor bills, our conflict attorney. It's not all just Cooper Levinson.
Right.
But the total of our legal
It's
bills,
not all.
It's not all for the solicitate for our solicitor, it's for the various work
right,
that
and
the
it's
firm
all of our
does.
legal, not just their legal. It's all of our legal, just like,
Right. I'm hearing you
okay,
correctly.
a year ago, it was $290,000. So we're, even though we're looking like we're paying a big number for legal, Cooper, it's still below what we were a year ago.
Mr. Moody, I understand what you're saying, but it just doesn't seem right that we're having these bills pile up and no one's checking to make sure that they're being paid. I mean, it seems like over a matter of months, if we're not paying this bill or it's not coming in, someone needs to look at it and say, hey, this bill's not being paid, where's it at, what's going on? Months and months at a time really doesn't make sense to me. I mean, we're running a business, we're not paying our
I can
bills.
speak to that, I can speak to that though.
I'm just saying, regardless, something needs to be put in place so that it doesn't happen again, whether we speak to it or not. We have to set up something so that we don't go through this again.
I can
Does
speak
that make sense?
Yeah, but I can also speak to that from the internal controls, because there's so many different departments that see your bills, because I see your bill. Every attorney who touches your bill sees your bill. So there might be a time, for example, 1 month will pass by, but there's 6 attorneys who have seen that bill because we're all on different, whether it's ethics, transactional, general, otherwise. So May's bill may not get here until July because someone has to check it. Every attorney who touches your bill checks it ethically to make sure their input is correct. So
What I'm saying is that,
it may not get, well, I was gonna say, just
But-
in defense of Barry, the bill may not get to, May's bill may not get.
but didn't you say that the bill got here? The bill was here, right? And then
There
it
were
was
some
put-
bills that got
okay.
here, yeah.
All right.
And
That's what I'm saying, we have to make sure that we put our stuff in
I
place so
understand
that
what
we
you're
don't.
saying.
Yeah.
Right.
I understand.
No,
what you're saying.
I understand what you're saying.
Because I check the bills too, so these bills go through various hands and eyes, right? So when I check the bill, I'm not looking at, this is the month of November. I'm not looking at the bill, say it's October, am I looking at October's bill? I'm looking at the itemized work that is described on that bill to make sure that we're being charged for the work that we're saying that they're doing. I'm not looking at the time, I mean, unless it's just a crazy period, but because there's been, issues in the past, not with this firm, but with other firms, where you actually are looking at itemized information or descriptions of information that was for another municipality. So it's a process, so you're not automatically gonna get these bills at the time of the service, but I do respect what you're saying, and no, it shouldn't be months and months of
That's what-
bills sitting
yes.
there. So we will keep an eye on that, but I just want everybody to understand, there is an internal process on both sides when we look, because this is where you are spending your money.
No, I'm glad that you're looking at it, but it seems
Yeah.
like
Kind of
you
hoping
should
it
be
gives us a
a little
little
bit
No,
more
I'm just
fluid
saying,
on-
sure.
Yeah.
That's on us too, to make sure when their attention redevelopment council, attention solicitor, it should be clear to the addressee who we're intending it to go to as well. So that, we had to fix that on the
Yeah, we had to.
yeah.
So on the bright side, we got to hang on to a little bit more money for a little bit of time, right?
You know, if you don't vote me, I'm not paying you.
All set to.
If you go to page 3, you'll see that bottom of page 3, another one of the condominium apartment complexes we had to reimburse for trash. It's Trockey Development. Go to page 4. You'll see Lafayette Construction. We had a little bit of a sinkhole on one of our streets. And Martin Luther King and Third, they took care of. 3 down below that is Lexa Concrete. That's the work that's being done on Harrison, Prospect, and Tunis. That is draw 2 and 3. We still owe them probably around $350,000. We go to page 5. The second, third one again is more condominiums, Noah's Landing and Orchard. And then halfway down the list, Pleasantville School Board of $814,000 for the taxes for this month. And other than more condominiums, everything else is just our normal operating bills.
Barry, with the, on the Cooper Levinson, and it's not about billing, it's about Zell and Savage escrow. Are those escrow accounts being refunded as the money is coming out?
Yes, yes. Yeah, we do not, if there's no money in the account, we don't pay the bill.
And do they get charged anything for, I can't think of the name, the Brook Group, do they get charged at all in their escrow account? Do they pay a portion of the Brook Group's
The Brook
billing?
any, and Barry, correct me if I'm in error, but all of the redevelopment entities that have escrow accounts, when the Brook Group is doing work for those projects, get paid out of the escrow, or should they?
Yes.
And just as, suppose somebody, a small business has something done and they put in money into an escrow account and they've completed everything and it's been signed off on. Is there a process for them getting the remainder of their escrow account? How can they go about doing it?
They are supposed to be getting the remainder of your escrow account, probably within 30 days or 45 days to make sure all the bills have been taken care of. That is through the Zoning and Planning Commission. And we've just started doing that because the prior secretary never did it. And the money, I mean, we had everything from like 50 cents to account to a couple $1,000. But when Shalana went over there and got involved with it, and Stephanie got involved with it, we started refunding money where jobs were completely done.
Thank you.
For Rotella,
Yes.
this amount is for how many months?
What month is this, October, November? Probably 6.
Okay, thank you.
What page is that?
It's $32,000.
4.
And it's funny, Jim knows I pay him late, and I always have. And I put the bill in for payment, the next day he called me and said, Barry, you're going to pay me this 6 months. It's already on the bill list.
Okay, I just don't know that.
You know, he knows I don't pay him on time, I drag it, and he has no problem with it.
Next is the public portion. Yes, the public portion, anyone from the public portion speak on agenda items only.
Not yet.
Oh, look at me too fast.
agenda items. Yeah.
Anyone from the public? Seeing no one? Entertain a motion to close the public portion. Second. All in favor? Ayes have it. Next is open for discussion. Council. Seeing no one, motion to close public, open discussion. And entertain a motion to close the work session. Motion. All in favor? Ayes have it. Okay. Everybody needs a break? Breaks? Good evening. This is the City of Pleasantville City Council regular meeting. Today's date is November 21st, 2022. Time is 7:20 p.m. This meeting has been duly advertised in the city newspaper in conformance with the Open Public Media Act, otherwise known as Sunshine Law. Would you please stand for invocation and flag salute?
I'll be thy name, and kingdom come, and will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and give us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, power, and glory forever.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just a pause for a second. A moment of silence for our former councilman Scott. He lost his wife, and she had a going home ceremony this past Saturday. So just a moment of silence for Ms. Delma Scott. Rest in peace. Okay. Madam Clerk?
Roll call.
Thank you. Sorry.
Swan, no problem. Swan. Davenport.
Present.
Familar.
Here.
Thomas.
Present.
Camona.
Here.
Korea.
Here.
Sistrum.
Here.
6 in attendance.
Entertain a motion. Dispense with the reading of names.
Motion.
All in favor? Accommodations, proclamations, presentations, Mayor.
I have nothing, thank you.
All right, Madam.
Okay, first on the agenda is Resolution 191, authorizing the issuance and sale of up to $227,204 of special emergency notes of the city, making certain covenants to maintain the exemption of the interest on said notes from federal income taxation, and authorizing such further actions and making such determinations that may be necessary or appropriate to effectuate the issuance and sale of the notes.
Any questions? Shannon?
Motion.
Motion.
Second.
Roll call Davenport,
Yes.
Familar,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Pomona,
Yes.
Korea,
Yes.
Sistrum.
Yes.
Resolution approved. Resolution 192, approval to submit a fiscal year 23 local freight impact fund grant application and execute a grant contract with the New Jersey Department of Transportation for improvements along Mill Road and West Lees Avenue.
Motion. Second.
Roll call Davenport,
Yes.
Familar,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Pomona,
Yes.
Korea,
Yes.
Sistrum.
Yes.
Resolution approved. Resolution 193, certifying that all city council members have reviewed the 2021 annual audit for the city.
Motion.
Second.
Roll call Davenport,
Yes.
Familar,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Pomona,
Yes.
Korea,
Yes.
Sistrum.
Yes.
Resolution approved. Resolution 194, providing for budget transfers for 2022 appropriations and the current fund per New Jersey statutory annotated 40A:4-58.
Motion.
Second.
Roll call Davenport,
Yes.
Fablelaro.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Kimona,
Yes.
Korea,
Yes.
Sistrum.
Yes.
Resolution approved. I need a motion to approve the bill list.
Motion. Second.
Roll call Davenport,
Yes.
Fablelaro.
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Kimona,
Yes.
Korea,
Yes.
Sistrum.
Yes.
Motion approved. I need a motion to approve the bingo license.
Motion.
Second.
Roll call Davenport,
Yes.
Fablelaro.
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Kimona,
Yes.
Korea,
Yes.
Sistrum.
Yes.
Motion approved. Next, public portion.
Thank you. Public portion, anyone from the public wishes to speak on any item, please come forward. State your name. Mike.
All right, so you said name and,
Just your name.
okay, perfect. So my name is Christian Ragland, and I'm the Assistant Vice President of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at Atlanticare. And so I'm here with the trifecta. I see my colleague Nestor Smith behind me. The Alvanza, which was formerly known as Women's Shelter, has partnered with Atlanticare and the Ideal Institute to look at a way to bring workforce development into the city of Pleasantville. We have somewhat succeeded, and we're just waiting on some final approval of some grant funding, but we're looking to host what we call a workforce development class for certified home health aides in the city of Pleasantville for residents. And so the goal is that we would provide city residents the opportunity to go back to school for something that's in the healthcare field. Then at Atlanticare, we hire them and we will put them back to school for nursing, respiratory therapy, lab tech. And so the goal is not just to give people jobs, but give residents jobs where they can stay in their community. And as I heard from your auditing and all the different things that you're talking about, allow people to stay and provide financially and economically back into the community that they live in. And so my hope is that just this introduction to myself, Atlanticare, Avanzar, and the Pleasantville All-In Coalition, which I sit on, is that we can begin to build that relationship where we build workforce development back into the city, where we put them in long-standing careers that bring longevity, as well as opportunity. So I just wanted to introduce myself. I apologize for jumping up too soon the first time, but in my excitement, I'm really excited that this is an opportunity where we can truly thrive with the city of Pleasantville to bring career opportunities with not only Atlanticare, but with the entities around us. And so that's all I have today. I want to thank Mayor Ward, the council, and Ms. Payton. Hey.
May I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any type of literature on that so that we could look at it and maybe pass it out?
Absolutely. So that's the final portion of the grant we had to get redeveloped. So this wasn't the original plan from 6 months ago. They were working on something else. Then I came in and they said, hey, you have an idea what we can use this money for? I said, absolutely. You have a city of Pleasantville with people that want to go back to school for things in healthcare. And so once they get the edits changed and approved, I can get the literature approved on my end. But I would love to partner with you all, selfishly. Atlanticare, regardless of certification, still has employment opportunities for people who desire to go back to work. And so I would be more than willing to partner with you all to bring job fairs right here to the city of Pleasantville versus them having to apply online and have to wait that. So if anybody would love to take me up on that offer, I would love to do that.
Let's do it.
I'm looking at Ms. Davenport as well, so we'll talk. But and if I can say respectfully, as someone who is no stranger to Pleasantville, as I'm looking at many of you who probably watched me grow up, I'm only a product of the environment that I'm in because someone's exposed me to something. So to be someone from the Head Start program in Pleasantville, to be an assistant vice president at a hospital, is because someone gave me the opportunity to be exposed to it. And so we have the same opportunity, the same responsibility to do for the city of residents of Pleasantville, to give them exposure to careers that, again, will give them longevity. So thank you all for the time, and I hope to connect with you all soon.
Thank you. Thank you. I know you're ready to roll.
No.
Now, anyone else, you have anything to say?
I would just like to say, I think partnering with Atlanticare to get applications to people, because your website application process.
Yeah. So, and it's funny you said that. So that is why I'm here, because we get 6,000 applications a month for being one of the second to third largest employers in South Jersey. We get so many applications, competing with the casinos and the airport. But I'm a strong believer in bringing hiring managers to the communities that we're recruiting from, so we don't have the barriers or the lack of access to opportunities because of a technical disability. And so we saw we saw great success in some other municipalities, but again, seeing just the innate nature of Pleasantville, we have opportunities to partner with the high schools, to partner with you all, to get into your different areas to say, hey, we will bring the hiring managers, you just provide the space, we'll bring the applications, and we'll bring the hiring managers. So, and now since I'm on a roll here, I'm going to say this part. Full-time, part-time employees, we pay for them to go back to school. So there's a shortage, I'm sure you all heard, there's a national shortage for nursing, national shortage for respiratory therapists, national shortage for medical lab techs, all jobs making $75,000 a year in any country, state you go to. We pay 100% upfront for you to go into those programs, into those local colleges. But again, we have to get in front of the people and not be dogged by the back drama of technology because people can't get into the door because of the technology. We have to make this more playable for those individuals.
Now, this training will be done at the Ideal Institute?
Yep, as the primary goal is to get the grant approved. Ideal Institute is willing to host the classes. The classes for this particular program is 2 weeks only. Certified Home Health Aides require only 2 weeks of schooling. And then I will come in and hire these individuals into AtlantiCare so that they can continue their journey into the healthcare track as we continue to try to create not only a workforce of tomorrow, but a diverse, equitable, and inclusive one at that.
Yeah, thank you.
Will there be additional training once they're hired for AtlantiCare? Will there be additional training?
So, do you mean like on top of?
Or on top of the 2 weeks, yes?
No, they go right to work.
They go right to work?
I'm sure there'll be orientation into onboarding and things of that nature. But there are things you learn on the job, right? Phlebotomy, things of that nature that we're working on. It's so interesting. The world is going back to what we started, where we used to do on-the-job training, and then we became sophisticated and said you have to go to college. And now because no one wants to go to college, we got to go back to on-the-job training. So I think, I was just in a conversation with someone about this. That is my goal, to get back to finding ways to bring that training back home so people don't feel the burden of going into an institution of education to do that very thing that they can do on the job. And so overall, again, I just see this as an opportunity to partner with you all, and we know, and if I can say one last thing, health equity, fair access to health care revolves around workforce. If people don't have jobs to get benefits, how do we expect them to have a primary care physician? And so that's the other piece to this as well.
Christian, I'm one that has seen you grow up. Grow up and grow up.
I didn't get any taller though.
You did since the beginning, but anyway. See you grow into this position and just get this job and all that you've done with it thus far. And I'm just thanking you for coming to Pleasantville, remembering Pleasantville.
Absolutely.
Coming to us, to share it with our residents, because there's so many people that need it. And the
Absolutely.
education piece is really big.
Absolutely, Mayor Ward, and I thank you for all that you're doing. And again, this is just the beginning. And as I've stated before, our CEO, Lori Hunter, believes the same thing I believe, in that we have to go back into the community and open the doors and create fair equity for all.
You have it. Thank you.
So let me just state, because I know we heard a yes from all of you up there, but now the next step, and what happens, sometimes we get these grandiose ideas and then we don't hear from the people. So I need you, we're gonna hold you accountable to this. I need you to send that information to me so that we can get it out to our folks. And then we also want to do a job fair early next year or whatever the timing is right for you all. So we definitely want to follow through, and I don't want you to have to rely on the elected officials. We internally will make sure that this gets out to the community through my office.
Absolutely, and I think two different things, right? So the job fair we can do every month, every week, as long as you give me a space. So I will send a separate email just for that as pertains to the grant that we're trying to do with Avanzar for the certified home health aide training. Once that comes back from the New Jersey Health Institute or initiatives, excuse me, I can give you more information on that. But I can start a job fair tomorrow, bring the hiring managers. We just had a successful one last week in Atlantic City. And the stories, if I could share with you, were overwhelming in that thank you for coming into the community versus waiting for me to apply online and then have to wait 6 months to figure out that you didn't accept me. Let's just cut right to the chase. You give me a table and chairs and the key, I promise I won't, I'll turn the lights off and we will make this happen. And I want to see people be able to be proud homeowners, because we have programs that we allow people to buy homes. So there's a lot of things, but just nonetheless, I thank you all for allowing me to share that and hear my enthusiasm and passion. I will be sending that email very quickly.
I'm not gonna turn your ABC to raise up here, but.
Well, listen,
Steve, time to leave.
yeah, exactly. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Bradford.
Okay, anyone else from the public?
Yes.
Yes.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening.
I'm Mr. Miller, pastor here at Pleasantville Bethel Evangelical. I'm here for one question for you now. And I'm really interested because I've been here as a pastor now 23 years here in Pleasantville. I work with all the rest of the pastors here. And I'm concerned about the youth. And I know one time we had a pool at the school. What happened to it? Swimming pool. You know, swimming. And I think it's really inspiring for our kids, you know, swimming. I was in the Marine Corps, and they swim. And what happened to it? You know, I'm pretty sure they will know what happened to it too. You know, 'cause I'm saying this, sir, because
I'll let, just briefly, we got a school board member back there. He can tell you what happened to the school.
who's
Huh?
that, sir?
Mr. Harper. Yes, sir.
What's your question?
My question, what happened to the pool that we had? Swimming pool for our children.
Oh. The pool is ready. That I know because the person in charge, Mr. Jones, at the last Board of Education meeting, said that the pool had been fixed and it was ready to go. Now, I know Mr. Miller want to know, people call. I do not know why. My fellow board members, a few, are not opening our pool. Mr. Miller, I concur with you that I guess the community have to ask. Mr. Jerome Page is the president,
Okay.
and
Mr. Miller.
This is the principal.
Oh, I'm sorry.
and there's the principal.
Oh, man, get out. After the meeting is over, we can't speak to them.
Okay, this is all new to me, okay.
Okay.
I know no candy camp.
After the meeting is over with.
I'll speak to you when we're done.
I just want to say because, you know, Pleasantville is all being dog. Everybody's dog is.
I guess you came to the right spot. You got all three in.
Yeah, they be dogging, you know, Pleasantville, you know, dogging, but we live here. So, you know, this is our community. And I'm pastor, we're gonna build it up, that we have something, you know what I mean? So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
God bless you. Have a nice Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public?
Good evening to one and all. Mr. President, I'm going to need to borrow a couple of minutes, all right? Because my first issue is the audit that I sat through and heard. And I did hear the gentleman say that the sewage system will take care of itself. And it has done that for many, many years. But the city and the treasurer would know, and our ministry, all of you, that we have borrowed money from the sewage funds. Now the way the situation is, we're worried about inflation, cost is high, and I think we made a mistake, if there was a mistake, when we didn't get rid of old, decrepit pipelines. And I said to a few meetings, I think the issue is dead. You can correct me after I get to my second item. Let me thank our city treasurer, Mr. Barry. I caught up with him because I was in conversation with one of my legislative friends in Atlantic City, and the word takeover came. Atlantic City is having an experience in an indirect way that the big system is making an effort that Atlantic City may be taken over or controlled by the state. I stand here tonight to plead to you to say that I hope that my legislators would even think about a concern giving up the autonomous power, all of our municipal employees, what you do and you work with the union, and things are pretty good. So, that we not become so poor that the state is gonna give us some dollars, and then sit back and wait and take control of our municipality. So I hope that you're not even thinking along that line. Barry, I thank you for the input this year. I wasn't able to catch up with you, Ms. Payton, but about how that procedure works, grants, the state, and I do think we have a pretty affluent location in the country, sitting here off the water and enjoying the Atlantic Ocean and the casino industry. Number 2 item was that I had concerns about the eyesore vendors. The railroad track, every time I go on the track, and they're rusty and da-da-da-da, and I'm asked, why can't we do something about that? I talked to a group of men who said we're willing to paint that railroad track on both sides. So I bring it back to you and hope that we could take that eyesore out of our lovely community. Let me quickly thank Mr. Miller. The pool situation that we have, yes, it's over there, but the budget and the monies, and we're doing everything that we can to keep the dollar down. We have a few properties left to sell, but nobody is coming to town with a high rate. So it's the first thing we gotta do is make an effort to unload those properties, get the tax dollars down, and get some big industry here, not to take the time to name the 3 big parcels that we have, and move forward and make Pleasantville accessible to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Can I comment as it relates to the rail? Because I know that that has been a thorn in everyone's side as it sits there as an eyesore for the city. The city has recently, through our current attorneys, did our due diligence to search to see who had ownership of that overpass. We've learned that the ownership is not the city's, it's JP Rail. We have oversight underneath of the rail when we did the bike path, but the rail, the bridge itself is owned by JP Rail. We've sent a letter out, our attorney has sent a letter out to JP Rail, advising them of what we have learned, and then hopefully they'll respond and we'll sit down with them and hold them accountable for improvements that are done there.
Sure, appreciate that. Because we do have a manpower. I know Chief Williams, we had a group of men who really to volunteer some time to get that at least painted and look much better on both sides. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else from the public? See anyone? Entertain a motion to close the public portion. Motion. All in favor? Aye. Ayes have it. Now we have Councilman Davenport.
Well, tonight I'd just like to say, everyone enjoy your holiday, stay safe, God bless.
Councilman Rivera.
Thank you all for coming and happy Thanksgiving.
Councilman Kamala.
Well, thank you for coming. Everybody have a blessed Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Councilman.
Congratulations to the girls volleyball team at Pleasantville High School. Let's hope that it rubs off on the Greyhounds on Thursday for their 100th anniversary game with Ocean City, and have a nice holiday.
Councilwoman Thomas.
Joanne stole my little shine. Just a reminder that the Pleasantville game is the 24th on Thanksgiving. The gates open up at 9:30, and there will be on the 23rd, it says a pre-game bonfire at the middle school from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. I want to say congratulations to the JV football team, the Pleasantville Jokers team. They were the ACJFL champions. They will have a caravan parade to celebrate their accomplishment on December the 3rd at 12 noon. They're leaving for Walgreens parking lot, and then they are going, the ending point will be at the Jokers Field. And just a reminder about our annual Winter Wonderland. Santa's bike giveaway will be Friday, December the 2nd, right here in City Hall parking lot from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. Have a happy holiday, don't eat too much turkey, and see you at the next meeting.
Mayor?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out. I'd like to say that this week, well, this morning, and Chief, you can jump in if you'd like to, we did our Street Smart New Jersey, which you'll be, in the future, you'll be seeing signs around. The campaign, excuse me, the campaign started today, and what it is an initiative to make pedestrians and vehicles more aware of the crossings, the school, the crossings, and there's a lot of pedestrians that's hit by cars. So you'll be seeing literature, and we're going to do the crosswalks better. And it should be a nice campaign once we get, once we get it going. Chief, is there anything you wanted to add about that? You'll
No, I
just be
think you're-
seeing it when.
Yeah, I think you hit it, Mayor. It's basically for, pedestrian safety. So we're gonna, do some things in town, to promote that. So I think it's gonna be a really good thing with Street Smart.
And December 2nd at 12 to 3 at the Brighton Avenue Recreation Center, we'll have our annual Senior Citizen Christmas Party. So anyone that's over 60, a Pleasantville resident, you're invited, you're welcome to come. We have giveaways, raffles, we have lunch, we have a DJ, and everybody really does dance. And we just have a good time, 50-50. It's just a good thing to come out to. A lot of people at 60 or 61 don't want to admit that they're, that they're age, but you come, you'll have a lot of fun. Joanne, you don't come anymore. Are you 60 yet?
No.
And then that evening, as was stated earlier, we have our Winter Wonderland tree lighting ceremony with the bicycle giveaways. And asking anyone that wants to donate a bicycle for any of the youth, we are definitely still, the PEP committee is still accepting donations for bicycles. And that's it. Oh, real important. We went to the league this year, and Sustainable New Jersey we got an award this year because we have now graduated to the bronze status with 175 points. We believe that we have more, but 175 is what's been accounted for. Is what's been documented, and that depends on, the more points you have, the more grants you get for green and all that. So we're always seeking ways to get, different things that we do in the city to get more points. But that's big. That's big that that we're the bronze status now. And that's it. Everyone have a good Thanksgiving. Be safe and have a great evening.
I'm sorry, Chair.
Yes.
Not to put you on the spot, Chief, but can you give everyone an update of the initiative from Friday morning?
Okay, Midtown Community Response. We went out early Friday morning to basically reach out to our homeless population and those that have drug addictions. We had about a dozen, services at, I can't remember the name of this church right now. Innocence Church, Franklin and Black Horse Pike. We had about a dozen services at that location that was there. They had gloves, hats, coats, shoes, in addition to all the services they provide for anybody that we encountered. And what we did, we have representation from the fire department, police department, Councilwoman Thomas was out there, Public Works. We met at 6 o'clock in the morning,
at this church. It was very cold out there, and what we did is we focused on Center City, and we went into just about all of the abandoned buildings in Center City, you know, looking for homes, and we found them. You know, we came across about a dozen or so, you know, people, you know, that we thought needed services, although some, you know, were kind of turned away. But we were able to service, you know, at least about 3 people, you know, on that day there. So I think it was very successful, and we're going to continue with this because we do have them in town. And, you know, what we intend to do is to keep trying to offer these services to them, get them to trust us, you know, so they will, you know, go for these services that we know that they need. So it was a very good day, so.
Thank you, Chief.
Spade, you have anything?
Yeah, I'll just add to what Chief said. On that day, we were very busy, just trying to do a lot of community things to just help build and improve the quality of life here for the residents and our property owners and businesses. On that same day, at 10 a.m., right on 2nd Street at the bike path where Nino's Bakery is, if you can, please take the time to go out and look at that beautiful, beautiful bike path mural that is there. That was an initiative from a young man that came over to us, just wanting to provide some message within the community describing peace. And we thought that that was a beautiful spot for that, and a way for folks that are riding a bike path to come see some vibrant art. We actually talked on that same day about an upcoming event that I'm looking forward to, where we can get our young people involved in arts and just have a day of activities right there on the grounds of the mural where they can do some fun, healthy activities. So that was at 10 o'clock that day. The Neighborhood Preservation Program assisted with that event, and they gave out $50 ShopRite gift cards to families, unfortunately, who have lost loved ones this year within the community. And the spirit behind that was to say that we would provide love for that missing seat that you'll have at your table this year, and it was very, very well received.
Thanks for coming out. God bless the city of Pleasantville. God bless your families. May you have a great Thanksgiving. And break bread with one another, your family, your brothers, your loved ones, and preparing for this Christmas and this New Year to come in. All your concerns, we heard your concerns, and we try to do the best we possibly can with those, and try to move the city forward. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it.